Welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating educational experiment. We're looking at what actually happens when you completely drop the safety net and test a brand new skill live, in real time. Because think about it, we spend so much of our lives practicing, preparing, and rehearsing behind closed doors, basically just waiting until we feel ready to show the world what we can do. But what if feeling ready is just an illusion? What if the only way to truly gauge your progress is to just throw yourself into the deep end without a life vest? Well, let's dive into the journey of a language learner named Noor, who decided to do exactly that, and ended up uncovering a brilliant lesson about how we actually acquire new skills. Just imagine the absolute terror of hitting the record button without any backup plan. No script, zero preparation. That's exactly what Noor decided to do. In the modern era of learning, we're so used to having all these tools right at our fingertips. Dictionaries, translation apps, the ability to just pause a video or, delete a recording if we stumble. We meticulously script our attempts so we don't look foolish. But Noor made this conscious choice to strip every bit of that away. He set up his camera, looked directly into the lens, and committed to speaking a language he was barely even starting to learn with absolutely no notes in front of him. It's basically a pure, unfiltered test of cognitive recall under pressure. Section 1. The Unscripted Language Challenge. To really grasp why this is such a massive leap, we first need to look at the strict parameters of Noor's live test, starting with the number 13. Because this daunting experiment wasn't done after years of study or, months of immersion in a foreign country. It was done on exactly day 13 of learning Russian from absolute zero. Think about where you are 13 days into learning literally anything. Usually, you're still in that honeymoon phase, right? You're playing with flashcards, learning how to say hello and thank you, and relying entirely on guided lessons. You're definitely not putting yourself in a high-stakes performance environment. Attempting an unscripted monologue at this incredibly early stage is just almost unheard of in traditional language learning, which is exactly what makes this case study so incredibly unique. Now, up until this point in his journey, Noor admitted there was always at least some preparation involved before he spoke. But today's test had absolutely unforgiving rules. Step 1, press record and speak. Step 2, no stopping allowed, no matter how awkward the silence gets. And Step 3, zero editing. The final product is exactly what happened in that room. By removing the edit button, Noor completely removed his psychological crutch. He forced his brain into this sink or swim state. This is active recall in its absolute purest, most stressful form, forcing your brain to pull information from scratch without a single hint. In going into it, even Noor recognized the immediate vulnerability and raw anxiety of this approach. He actually says to the camera with this nervous little smile, "This is a bad idea." And honestly, that brilliantly illustrates the barrier to entry we all face when trying to apply a new skill. The fear of looking silly or making a mistake is often way stronger than the desire to practice. That little voice in our head telling us this is a bad idea is the exact thing that keeps most learners stuck in the permanent beginner phase, endlessly reading textbooks but never actually speaking. But Noor presses record anyway. Moving into Section 2. Speaking Russian live. Let's actually break down the timeline of this live, unscripted video challenge. Tracking this chronologically gives us a super clear map of the emotional roller coaster inherent in real-time language application. He introduces the rule at the start, begins speaking at the 30-second mark, hits a massive mental wall at 1 minute and 40 seconds, and finally reaches a really profound realization around the 4-minute mark. So this isn't just a timeline of a video. This is literally the neurological timeline of active learning. It visually represents the journey from comfortable, rehearsed knowledge right into the messy, chaotic zone of actual cognitive growth. So the crucial point is how he kicks things off. He starts off strong, speaking in Russian to say his name, where he's from, and that he's been learning the language for 13 days. He's totally relying on those fundamental introductions and basic phrases he's drilled over the past 2 weeks. This is the muscle memory kicking in. The brain is just retrieving pre-packaged blocks of information. He even adds that the language is difficult but interesting. For that first minute, the unscripted challenge seems entirely manageable. The confidence is totally there because the vocabulary is highly familiar. Which brings us to Section 3, embracing the struggle. Because as anyone who has ever learned a new skill knows, muscle memory really only takes you so far. Right around the 1 minute and 40-second mark, the inevitable mental wall hits him, and it hits hard. He stumbles, trying to say, I want to say, and suddenly that rehearsed vocabulary just vanishes. It leaves him desperately searching for words while the camera just continues to roll. The silence stretches out. You can physically see the gears turning as his brain frantically searching for the right grammatical structures and vocabulary.
The safety of the scripted introduction is completely gone, and he's now basically wandering in the dark. And then he breaks character for just a moment with a laugh, saying, "I don't know the word." This beautifully vulnerable admission right here is where the true test actually begins. Because when the safe script completely fails, what do? Do you turn off the camera? Do you quit? Do you look it up on your phone? In traditional learning environments, we're taught that not knowing the answer is a failure. But in real-world communication, not knowing a word is really just a hurdle you have to navigate around. Instead of freezing or stopping the recording, Noor pushes right through the panic. He pivots back to the limited words he does know just to keep the flow alive. He manages to say that he'll keep speaking, that he makes mistakes, and most importantly, that it's normal. By verbalizing this, he's basically reframing the whole experience in real time. He realizes that the goal of speaking a language isn't flawless delivery, it's the transmission of ideas. If he can communicate that he is struggling, but moving forward, he is actually successfully communicating.
Section 4. Practice versus real speaking.
Breaking character after this intensely stressful exercise, Noor brilliantly illustrates the massive chasm between rehearsing in a controlled environment and the messy, authentic reality of actual expression. Practicing is safe, right? It's prepared, it's scripted, you have the answers sitting right in front of you. But actually speaking, that is alive, it's highly stressful, and it is entirely mistake-prone. It's like you can practice hitting a tennis ball against a wall perfectly 1,000 times, but the second you play against a real opponent, the unpredictable nature of the game changes everything. Noor realized that you just cannot practice your way into being able to speak. Eventually, you just have to start speaking.
He summarizes this with a really powerful realization. He says, "I'm still a beginner, but now I can express myself even with mistakes." He discovers that true fluency at any stage isn't about absolute perfection. It's about the ability to navigate through mistakes without giving up. And that changes the entire paradigm of learning. Because if you define success as 0 mistakes, you're going to be paralyzed with fear forever. But if you define success as the ability to express yourself despite the mistakes, you instantly unlock the courage to practice in the real world.
And finally, Section 5. Test your real level. This 13-day experiment proves that embracing the fear of failure is absolutely the ultimate catalyst for genuine growth. Fueled by surviving this unscripted test, he doesn't retreat back to the safety of his flashcards. No way. Instead, he sets his sights on an even harder challenge for day 14. He decides he wants to attempt a real conversation with another human being, again, with absolutely no preparation. This is the compound interest of courage. By surviving this small, unscripted video test, his baseline for what he can handle has fundamentally shifted. He realized the worst that can happen is he says, "I don't know the word," and life just simply goes on. So as we wrap up this explainer, the really crucial question for your own learning journey is this. Whether you're learning a language, a musical instrument, coding, or public speaking, when will you stop practicing and start actually doing? Are you ready to drop your script, leave the safety of preparation behind, and test your real level? True growth happens in the messy, unedited, mistake-filled moments. Embrace them and see just how capable you truly are. Until next time, keep learning, keep explaining.